This video will introduce cameras and lighting. 1. Create a camera layer and change camera settings. 2. Create a light source and change the light source settings. 3. Camera, light spot. 4. Move or adjust the camera on 3D scene to view the layers. 5. Surface. 1. Create a camera layer and change the camera settings. You can use the camera layer to view the 3D layer from any angle and distance. Just as it is easier to move the camera in and around the scene in the real world than it is to move and rotate the scene itself, it is usually easiest to get different views of the composition by setting the camera layer and moving it in the composition. You can configure the camera by modifying and animating the camera settings. You can also use camera settings to add camera-like behavior to compositing effects and animations. The camera affects all 3D and 2D layers. You can use perspective cameras, movies, or lighting to view or illuminate the effects from various angles to simulate more complex 3D effects. You can choose to view the project with an active camera or with a custom camera that you specify. The active camera is the topmost camera in the timeline panel, for which the video switch is selected at the current time. The active camera view is the viewpoint used to create the final output and nested items. If you did not create a custom camera, the active camera is the same as the default project view. All cameras are listed in the 3D scene layer at the bottom of the project panel, and you can access them at any time. It is usually easiest to adjust the cameras when using a custom 3D scene. Of course, when you look through the camera itself, you cannot view the camera operation. Create a camera layer. To create a camera layer, select Layer, 3D, turn on 3D switch. This is the 3D scene layer that appears at the bottom of the project's layers at this time. Note, by default, the 3D scene layer starts at the beginning of the project duration to the end of the duration of the project. Then you can set the time range of the camera to control how long the camera will affect the project. Create and delete camera. Type the perspective camera is a composition picture that displays the image of the 3-dimensional and 3-dimensional space on the 2-dimensional plane according to the visual habits of the human eye. The author camera does not consider the perspective effect of the object, but only 1-to-1 corresponds the points in the 3-dimensional space where the object is located to the imaging on the 2-dimensional view plane. That is, a perspective camera has a strong expression of 3-dimensional space, and an author camera can accurately express the position and state of an object in space by default. Post 1, active, is the name of the first camera you created in your project, and all subsequent cameras are numbered in ascending order. Choose different names for multiple cameras to distinguish them. To add cameras of the same type, click the sign to the right of the camera name, and click the perspective camera. To add a different type of camera, click the sign to the right of the camera name, and click the ortho camera. Change camera settings. To change the attribute value of a camera layer, select 3D scene layer, camera, properties. To change the duration range affected by the camera layer, select 3D scene layer, camera, type 4 refers to the range covered by the camera lens. Objects beyond this angle will not be taken into the lens node. Ortho cameras have no soft attributes. To delete an added camera, click the X in the upper right corner of the camera to delete it. Note, there must be at least one camera in the 3D scene layer. 2. Create a light and change light settings. The light layer can affect the colors of the 3D layers that it shines on, depending on the light settings and the material options properties of the 3D layers. Each light by default points to its light spot. Lighting can be used to illuminate and project 3D layers. You can use lighting to match the lighting conditions of the scene in which you have projects, or create more interesting visual effects. Lighting affects all 3D layers in the project. Create a light. To create a light, select Layer, 3D, turn on 3D switch. The light you create includes name of the type of light. By default, the generated light type name is Cell 1, and all subsequent lights of the same type are numbered in ascending order. Choose different names for multiple cameras to distinguish them. Note, by default, the 3D scene layer starts at the beginning of the project duration. By the end of the project period, you can set the time range of the lighting to control how much the lighting affects the project. To add other types of lighting, click the sign to the right of the line name, and then click Spotlight or Point Light. Change light settings. To change the value of the light's properties, choose 3D scene layer, Light, select Light properties. To change the duration of the project affected by light, select 3D scene layer, camera, time range. Light setting, light type. Parallel emits directional or constrained light from an infinitely far light source, which is similar to sunlight. Spot emits light from a light source, constrained by a cone, such as a flashlight or spotlight, used in stage production. Point emits are constrained on the directional light, like the light emitted by a bulb. Intensity, the brightness of the light. Negative values create non-light. Non-light subtracts color from a layer. For example, if a layer is already lit, creating a directional light with negative values, also pointing at that layer, darkens an area on the layer. Color, the color of the light called angle, the angle of the cone surrounding the source of a light, which determines the width of the beam at a distance. This control is active only if spot is selected for light type. Fall-off, the type of fall-off for a parallel, spot, or point light. Fall-off describes how a light intensity is lessened over distance. The attenuation here specifies the distance at which the light is attenuated. 3. Move a camera, light, or point of interest. Camera layers and light layers each include a point of interest property, which specifies the point in the composition at which the camera or light points. By default, the point of interest is at the center of the composition. Select the attributes of the camera or lighting, and modify the position and orientation attribute values. 4. Move or adjust the camera or 3D scene to view layers. You can change the perspective and orientation of the view. To see the selected layer, select the layer, click 3D, turn on the 3D switch, click texture, and then slide canopy with your finger to cut the perspective. 5. Material options properties. 3D layers have material options properties, which determine how a 3D layer interacts with light and shadow. To modify material properties, select layer, click 3D, turn on 3D switch, click texture, select a face, click surface. Metallic. The metallic property defines whether the surface is a metallic, conductor, or non-metallic, dielectric surface. This property can dramatically change the appearance of a surface. Non-metallic surfaces have chromatic diffuse reflection and achromatic specular reflection. Reflected light does not change color. Metallic surfaces do not have any diffuse reflection, and chromatic specular reflection. Reflected light takes on the color of the surface, as defined by base color. The effect of metallic is shown in figure. Reflect. The reflectance property only affects non-metallic surfaces. This property can be used to control the specular intensity and index of refraction of materials. This value is defined between 0 and 100, and represents a remapping of a percentage of reflectance. For instance, the default value of 50 corresponds to a reflectance of 4%. Values below 35, 2% reflectance should be avoided, as no real-world materials have such low reflectance. The effect of reflectance on non-metallic surfaces is shown in figure. Rough. The roughness property controls the perceived smoothness of the surface. When roughness is set to 0, the surface is perfectly smooth and highly glossy. The rougher a surface is, the blurrier the reflections are. This property is often called glossiness in other engines and tools, and is simply the opposite of the roughness. Roughness 100 glossiness. Clear coat. Multi-layer materials are fairly common, particularly materials with a thin translucent layer over a base layer. Real-world examples of such materials include car paints, such as lacquered wood and acrylic. The clear coat property can be used to describe materials with 2 layers. The clear coat layer will always be isotropic and dielectric. The clear coat property controls the strength of the clear coat layer. This should be treated as a binary value, set to either 0 or 100. Intermediate values are useful to control transitions between parts of the surface that have a clear coat layers and parts that don't. Here the effect of clear coat on a rough metal is shown in figure. Clear rough. The clear coat roughness property is similar to the roughness property, but applies only to the clear coat layer. The effect of clear coat roughness on a rough metal is shown in figure.